In a day and age where everybody and their mama is trying to tell a multiverse story, I like to think back to the days where stories like these were more spread out and didn't happen as much. And obviously in this context, it happens a lot with Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a character who has multiple iterations of not just Peter Parker himself, but an entire slew of characters who have also taken up the mantle of Spider-Man throughout the character's existence. But before the likes of No Way Home and the Spider-Verse movies, there was another crossover story that took place a few years back, and that story being Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. This game came out during a time period before constant multiverse oversaturation was a thing, which made this shit stand out a lot more. The idea of being able to play as 4 different Spider-Men in one game was interesting, and it left me intrigued to see how they were going to pull it off. To answer that question, I remember it being a really good game. But is that how I feel now? Does Shattered Dimensions still hold up today? Let's take a walk and find out. But before we get into all of that, this video is sponsored by your mom doing her due diligence in the kitchen, making soups, pies, and other delectable eats, while your father makes up for all the years he missed in your life by reciting Negro spirituals in the backyard. So if you're cool with that, let's go. Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions released on September 7, 2010 to pretty much unanimous praise. As the Wikipedia page states, the game revolves around an artifact known as the Tablet of Order and Chaos. When it was shattered into pieces during a fight between Amazing Spider-Man and Mysterio, it causes problems with multiple realities across the Marvel multiverse. Madam Web recruits the Amazing Spider-Man and 3 other alternate versions of the hero, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Man 2099, and Ultimate Spider-Man, to restore the balance by retrieving the tablet fragments from villains within their respective dimensions. I almost did that entire thing perfectly, but I fucked up at the end like the stupid bot that... As the game details, you get to take control of not just one Spidey, but 4 in this game, and each of them has their own unique style of play. Unlike the last 2 games, this isn't an open world adventure where you get to explore New York. You're restricted to actual levels this time, which kinda can hinder the Spider-Man's traversal in a way, but not by much, and honestly, the combat is that's not what that says. The combat is the most important part of the game, methinks. Amazing Spider-Man is our classic Peter Parker that we all know and love. Basic and light heavy, what the fuck did that just say? That's not, what? Amazing Spider-Man is our classic Peter Parker that we all know and love. Basic, light, almost said it again. Basic, light, and heavy attacks, web swinging, upgrades, the works. Peter focuses more so on integrating his webs into his combat, like using them to rip out rocks from the ground and use them as wrecking balls, and you're telling me these niggas ain't dead? Using his webs to create more objects like a fucking hammer, for instance. This dude is not playing around this time. The combat is the most satisfying that it's been so far. Why am I pausing so much in the middle of these sentences? The combat is the most satisfying that it's been so far when it comes to Mr. Peter Parker, and it feels like his levels and boss encounters are all the more interesting. That says entertaining. Entertaining as a result. What the fuck is my problem tonight? But honestly, we've been dealing with and talking about Vanilla Parker for the last 2 videos. Let's focus on the newcomers this time around. And to do that, I'm doing my own crossover episode today and letting my friends take over. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Wow, Soul, it's really cool that you have friends that'll help you out this early on in your YouTube's lifespan. And my answer to that is, no the fuck I don't. These niggas kidnapped me and made me add them to the video. Love you guys.
This is the first game to really answer the question, what if you, yes you, were playing as Spider-Man of the future? You play as Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. He lives in Nueva York, a futuristic city that's definitely far from home. But how does he do in his first jump into the Spider games? On the topic of the world, Miguel's also has its own art style. Backgrounds often feature cameos from different Marvel heroes, cars driving around, and skyscrapers scraping skies. Despite how advanced it is, the world always looks somewhat gloomy, with a thick fog covering the ground floor at all times. Obviously, this is to make the game process less, but I think it's a cool look that fits Miguel's world, although it's definitely the most uninspired world in the game. What doesn't fit is his attitude. Miguel's often characterized as more vicious and serious than most Spideys, so this version being arrogant and snarky, while amusing, is off-putting. This isn't helped by the voice acting either.
You're not like the other Goblin I fought.
While good, it still feels very off for the type of person 2099 usually is. Voiced by Dan Gilvezan, who previously voiced Peter Parker back in the 80s actually. Dan brings more of that classic 616 energy, but with a more mature tone. He really does sound like an 80s action hero, it just doesn't do 2099 any favors. Finally, his gameplay. He's honestly really cool. He has quick slashes and kicks, he can charge attacks for extra damage, and he also has an accelerated vision, slowing down his perception of time. Miguel is just fast, like really fast, a hack and slash to his core. He also has these skydiving sections that aren't too hard, but they're pretty cool honestly. Overall, gameplay is quick and snappy, although it's definitely aged a bit, being a 360 era game and all. And one more thing, his theme song in this game was referenced in Across the Spider-Verse, which is pretty badass.
Spider-Man was cool before. But what if he was that guy? The Ultimate Dimension is host to everyone's favorite menace from New York, but this time he's equipped with the symbiote, aka Venom, and he's voiced by Josh Keaton, whom most people will recognize from the Spectacular Spider-Man TV show. He shares more of the same personality that's the standard for Spider-Man, noted through his commenting on Electro's lack of pants. His gameplay is much more hack and slash in nature, similar to games like God of War, due to his increased strength from the symbiote and increase in number of enemies. His attacks usually consist of the iconic Spider-Man punching and kicking, but now include tendril attacks to decimate large crowds of enemies. And you also have the Rage mode, which unleashes the power of the symbiote and increases your damage and range. The art style of the Ultimate Dimension is heavily cel-shaded, simulating the style of a comic book, and his quest to obtain the shards leads him to face Electro, Deadpool, and Carnage from the hit movie I'm not gonna name. Electro's level being sent a power plant near a dam that he's getting power from, obviously. Deadpool's level is on an oil rig where he hosts his game show to kill people, and Carnage's level takes place in a symbiote overrun shield facility. Some genuinely creepy elements. Deadpool's level being the best in my opinion, because of the oil rig setting, and having to compete in his game show and fight his fanboys in cosplay in order to win his shard fragment, all while Nolan North's Deadpool talks to you on FaceTime. One last note are the all costumes for Ultimate Spider-Man, which include the classic red and blue, the Electro-proof suit, fitting for the first level, and the Mangaverse suit.
Now, I already know what you're gonna say. This is just an Arkham clone, right? And yeah, this is just an Arkham clone, but it's got style. Lots and lots of style. Segments of Noir Spider-Man's gameplay range from webbing up a door-wearing, Tommy gun-wielding enemies to beating the crap out of a room full of goons under one light surrounded by that pitch black you've grown accustomed to in this dimension. Lines of sight are indicated by the flashlights at the end of enemies' weapons. The art style can be cel-shaded when you're in the shadows, and then seamlessly transition to normally rendered when Spidey's in the light. And to be quite frank, all of this, it's all fun as hell. The animation for this guy are nothing but straight up brutal and dirty in terms of the clean comical fighting of amazing with a borderline Dynasty Warrior-esque gameplay of Ultimate. Now, the only problem with this guy is he's inconsistent. Inconsistent as hell. Like I said, there will be segments where you'll be surrounded and clear the room with ease, but when you're in stealth, these guys have so much goddamn help. Madam Web in the beginning details you either take them out quickly or retreat to the shadows. Do not try and take them out quickly. Bullets hurt like hell in this game, and Noir isn't bulletproof. Just a small nitpick, but that's how, the game was made, and you're gonna have to play by the rules. The presentation of levels is insane. Hammerhead's Train Yard, Vulture's Wild Goose Chase through 1930s New York, and of course, Goblin's Circus. Admittedly, the Train Yard level seems kind of formulaic out of the 3 Noir levels, but it gets so much better as you play. And I could really say that about all of the Noir levels. Thanks, friends. Really cool. But yeah, each of the 4 Spider-Men are very unique in their styles of gameplay, with Amazing being my favorite and Noir being the most unique. I know I said Amazing is my favorite and I barely had anything to say about him, but he's honestly the simplest of the 4, and in a way, that's why I like him. I've always been a fan of classic Peter Parker over every other iteration of Spider-Man, so putting him in a game with all these other Spider-Men kind of makes me appreciate him more for what he is, or some sappy shit like that, I don't know. Either way, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions is really one hell of a good time, and it genuinely shocks me when I hear people either haven't played it or haven't heard of it, and trust me, the number of both is way higher than I'm cool with. Would I like to see this concept tackled again? I'm honestly not sure, because while it's interesting to explore all these different universes, we've been doing this so much recently, and as I stated before, at some point it gets tiring to keep retreading the same plot point over and over again. It also makes it feel less novel. Now, if they were to try and integrate the different Spider-Man into the same universe like in the Insomniac games, that'd be a different story altogether in my personal opinion, but I guess we'll see what happens. Next up on the list, we got the really cool one, that being Spider-Man Edge Time. And this game was actually my first introduction to Miguel O'Hara, believe it or not, but we'll be getting to that. That's not what that says. But we'll get into that next time. And hopefully next time isn't a fucking month from now. I swear I'm trying to get better at this. But anyways, we'll meet again as soon. I think that wasn't even English just now. But until then, tell your mama that I said those cookies she baked me last night were fire and I'm gonna need her to run it back.